The most powerful man in the room expected everyone to agree with him. Then one woman looked at his billion-dollar decision, placed a score on the table, and gave him the one answer nobody had ever dared to say. The room inside the Whitmore Tower was filled with silence before the presentation even began. On the 48th floor of one of the most recognizable buildings in the city, executives, investors, and advisors gathered around a long glass table waiting for Adrian Blackwell to speak. Adrian was known as a man who rarely needed introductions. As the mafia boss behind one of the largest private investment networks in the country, his name carried influence far beyond the businesses he controlled. People respected his decisions. People trusted his instincts. And most importantly, people rarely questioned him. Tonight was supposed to be another moment of victory. Adrian was preparing to announce his newest investment opportunity, a project valued at $2 billion. The numbers were impressive. The strategy was ambitious. Every person in the room expected the same result: approval, agreement, confidence. But there was one person sitting quietly at the end of the table who was not there to impress anyone. Olivia Carter, a black woman known for her independent evaluations and honest assessments, had been invited to review the project before the final decision. Unlike everyone else in the room, Olivia was not there because of Adrian's reputation. She was there because her expertise mattered. She carefully reviewed every document, every projection, and every detail of the proposal. While others focused on the size of the opportunity, Olivia focused on whether the foundation behind it was strong enough. Adrian noticed her silence. Most people in his position were surrounded by compliments. They were used to hearing what they wanted to hear. But Olivia did not rush to praise him. She did not appear impressed by the number attached to the project. She simply continued reading. Finally, after several minutes, Adrian leaned forward. "Well," he asked. Everyone looked toward Olivia. The room waited for the positive answer they believed was coming. Olivia closed the folder in front of her and looked directly at Adrian. "My evaluation is complete." Her voice was calm and professional. "And my score is 0. The atmosphere changed instantly. Nobody moved. Nobody expected those words. A $2 billion opportunity had just received the lowest possible evaluation from the one person whose opinion was supposed to protect the decision. Adrian stared at the paper in front of him. A 0 was not what he had expected. Not from anyone. Especially not from someone who had no personal history with him and no reason to challenge his authority. 0. Adrian repeated. Olivia nodded. Yes, because the value of a project is not measured only by how much money is involved. It is measured by how realistic the plan is, how prepared the team is, and whether the risks have been honestly considered. The room remained quiet. Some people expected Adrian to react immediately. They expected him to dismiss her opinion or question her credibility. But Adrian did something unexpected. He listened. Because for the first time in a long time, someone had entered his world without fear, without trying to gain something, and without changing the truth to make him comfortable. Olivia did not see a mafia boss with billions of dollars behind his name. She saw a decision that needed to be evaluated. And Adrian Blackwell was about to discover that the most valuable person in the room was not the one who supported him. It was the one brave enough to tell him when he might be wrong. After Olivia Carter gave her evaluation, the atmosphere inside Whitmore Tower changed completely. The confidence that filled the room only moments before was replaced by uncertainty. Everyone had expected Adrian Blackwell to reject her opinion immediately. They had seen countless people adjust their words whenever they spoke to him. They had watched executives choose comfort over honesty because Adrian's influence was impossible to ignore. But Olivia remained exactly the same. She sat across from the mafia boss with a calm expression, waiting for the discussion to continue. Adrian looked at the evaluation in front of him again. The numbers still seemed impossible. A 0 on. A project worth $2 billion was not just a negative opinion. It was a challenge to everything he believed about his own judgment. "You understand the importance of this decision?" Adrian asked. Olivia nodded. "That is exactly why I gave this evaluation." Her answer surprised him. Most people treated the size of an investment as a reason to be careful with their words. Olivia treated it as a reason to be more honest. She explained that large opportunities required stronger questions, not fewer. She pointed out areas where the projections depended on assumptions that had not been fully tested. She highlighted risks that others had ignored because they were focused on the possibility of success. Adrian listened carefully. He did not agree with every point immediately, but he noticed something important. Olivia was not trying to embarrass him. She was not trying to prove she was smarter than everyone else in the room. She was simply doing the job she had been hired to do. That difference mattered. After the meeting ended, several executives approached Adrian privately. They suggested that Olivia's evaluation was too harsh. They questioned whether someone with her background should have such influence over a decision of this size. Adrian listened without responding. He had heard those kinds of comments before, but something about them felt different now. He realized they were not criticizing Olivia's analysis. They were criticizing the fact that she had the confidence to deliver it. Later that evening, Adrian reviewed the documents again by himself. For the first time, he looked beyond the excitement of the opportunity and focused on the details Olivia had mentioned. The more he examined the information, the more he understood why she had reached her conclusion. The problem was not that Olivia failed to see the potential. The problem was that she saw the potential and the weaknesses at the same time. That was what made her valuable. The next morning, Adrian requested another meeting with Olivia. She entered his office expecting another discussion about the evaluation. Instead, she found him reviewing her notes carefully. Most people would have changed their answer after seeing who was behind this project, Adrian said. Olivia looked at him. That would not be an evaluation. That would be an opinion based on fear. Those words stayed with him. Adrian had spent years building a reputation around control and confidence. But Olivia showed him something different. Real confidence was not refusing to be questioned. Real confidence was being strong enough to consider the possibility that someone else might see what you missed. For the first time, Adrian saw Olivia not as someone challenging his authority, but as someone protecting his future. The woman who gave him a 0 was not trying to take something away from him. She was the only person in the room trying to make sure he did not lose something far more valuable than money: the ability to recognize the truth. Adrian Blackwell had spent years believing that the most dangerous thing in business was uncertainty. He built his empire by studying numbers, predicting outcomes, and making decisions before others even recognized an opportunity. But after Olivia Carter's evaluation, he discovered something more challenging than uncertainty. It was the possibility that the person who questioned him might actually be right. For the first time in years, Adrian did not immediately search for someone to blame. Instead, he searched for answers. He reviewed every detail Olivia had highlighted and examined the project from a different perspective. The more he looked, the more he understood why she had given such a strong judgment. The opportunity was impressive, but the foundation needed more preparation. Olivia had not rejected the vision. She had protected it from becoming a mistake. That realization changed the way Adrian viewed her. Before their meeting, he saw Olivia as an evaluator who had the responsibility to judge his project. Now he saw her as someone who had the courage to challenge his assumptions. That was rare in his world. Most people around Adrian knew how to agree with him. Very few knew how to tell him the truth. Meanwhile, Olivia returned to her work without expecting anything from the situation. She did not celebrate the fact that she had challenged one of the most powerful men in the city. She simply considered it another professional responsibility. Adrian noticed that difference. He had met many people who wanted recognition for being bold. Olivia wanted nothing except accuracy. One afternoon, Adrian invited Olivia to review the project again. This time, the conversation was different. There was no pressure, no expectation, and no attempt to convince her to change her opinion. What would you do if this was your investment? Adrian asked. Olivia looked through the updated information before answering. I would slow down, rebuild the foundation, and make sure the success is not based only on confidence. Adrian listened carefully. The answer was simple, but it carried weight. Confidence had always been one of his greatest strengths. But he began to understand that confidence without careful consideration could become a weakness. Later that week, several members of Adrian's team questioned why he continued involving Olivia in the decision-making process. They believed a person with less connection to powerful circles should not have such influence. Adrian heard the criticism, but this time he saw it differently. He recognized that Olivia's background was exactly why her perspective mattered. She was not impressed by the same things everyone else noticed. She looked deeper. She asked better questions. She focused on results instead of appearances. That is the reason she belongs in this conversation, Adrian said. Because she is willing to see what others ignore. The statement surprised everyone who heard it. Adrian Blackwell was known for protecting his authority, but now he was protecting the value of honesty. Olivia never asked him to change. She never demanded respect. She earned it through every decision she made. And Adrian began to realize that the greatest advantage he could have was not surrounding himself with people who always supported him. It was having someone brave enough to challenge him when he needed it most. The woman who gave him a zero had become the person who helped him see the opportunity more clearly than anyone else. The days following Olivia Carter's evaluation brought a change inside Whitmore Tower that few people expected. The project that was once surrounded by confidence and excitement was now being examined with a level of attention it had never received before. Every number was reviewed again. Every assumption was questioned. And for the first time, Adrian Blackwell encouraged people to look for problems instead of simply searching for reasons to celebrate. Those close to Adrian noticed the difference immediately. The Mafia boss who had built his reputation on certainty was now asking more questions than giving answers. It was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign that he was finally willing to see beyond his own perspective. Olivia continued working alongside the team, but she remained careful to keep the same professional distance she had from the beginning. She did not act as though she had won an argument. She did not remind anyone that she had been right. Her focus remained on improving the project and making sure the final decision was based on reality rather than emotion. Adrian respected that more than he expected. He had met many people who wanted to be seen as intelligent. Olivia was different. She was not interested in appearing correct. She was interested in helping others make better choices. During another review meeting, Olivia presented a revised analysis. She explained that the project still had potential, but success would require patience and a stronger foundation. She pointed out areas where the team could improve efficiency, reduce unnecessary risks, and create a more sustainable plan. Several executives listened carefully. The same people who had questioned her position before were now taking notes. Adrian watched their reactions and realized something important. Respect did not always appear when someone demanded it. Sometimes it appeared when people finally witnessed someone's ability. After the meeting, Adrian asked Olivia why she remained so calm when so many people questioned her. Olivia looked at him thoughtfully. Because I have learned that being underestimated is temporary. The important thing is knowing your own responsibility. Adrian considered her answer. He understood power. He understood influence. But he was beginning to understand something deeper. A person's confidence was not created by the number of people who supported them. It came from the strength of their own principles. Later that evening, Adrian reviewed old decisions from his past. He realized that many people around him had avoided difficult conversations because they wanted to protect their relationship with him. They were afraid that honesty would create conflict. Olivia had shown him the opposite. Honesty, when given with respect, could protect something far more valuable than pride. It could protect the future. The following morning, Adrian made an announcement to his team. The $2 billion project would continue, but not in the way originally planned. The strategy would be rebuilt using the concerns Olivia had raised. Some people were surprised that Adrian had accepted criticism so openly. But Adrian understood that leadership was not about proving he was always right. It was about making sure the best decision was made. Olivia watched quietly as the team moved forward. She never expected Adrian to change because of her. She only expected him to consider the facts. But that was exactly why her influence mattered. She did not try to control the outcome. She simply brought truth into the room. And Adrian Blackwell was beginning to realize that the greatest value in any investment was not always measured in dollars. Sometimes it was measured in the courage of the person willing to protect it. The decision to rebuild the $2 billion project changed more than a business strategy. It changed the way people inside Whitmore Tower viewed Adrian Blackwell. For years, the Mafia boss had been known as someone who trusted his instincts above everything else. His confidence had built an empire, and many believed that confidence was the reason for his success. But now, the people around him were witnessing something they had rarely seen before. Adrian was listening. He was not listening because he had lost control. He was listening because he had learned the value of hearing the truth before making a decision. Olivia Carter continued reviewing the project as the team worked. Through the changes, she remained focused on the details, carefully examining every update and asking the questions others avoided. She never acted as though she had more power than anyone else. She simply understood that responsibility came before recognition. Adrian noticed that quality every day. He had met many people who wanted to be close to power. They agreed quickly, praised easily, and avoided difficult conversations. Olivia did the opposite. She respected Adrian enough to be honest with him. That was something he had not experienced often. One afternoon, Adrian invited Olivia to a private discussion about the future of the investment. Instead of presenting another set of instructions, he asked for her perspective. "What do you think is the biggest mistake leaders make when they have success?" he asked. Olivia thought for a moment before answering. "They start believing success means they cannot be wrong." Adrian remained quiet. The answer was simple, but it carried a meaning he understood. He had spent years surrounded by people who viewed his achievements as proof that his decisions were always correct. Olivia reminded him that past success did not guarantee future wisdom. A person could have billions of dollars and still miss something important. During the following weeks, the project began improving. The team created a stronger plan, adjusted expectations, and focused on long-term stability instead of quick results. The same executives who once doubted Olivia began seeking her advice. They realized her evaluation had never been an attack. It had been a warning from someone who cared about getting the decision right. However, not everyone accepted the change easily. Some people believed Adrian was giving Olivia too much influence. They questioned why a black woman who was not part of the traditional circles of power had become such an important voice in a major investment. Adrian heard those comments and recognized something he had overlooked before. Many people were not uncomfortable with Olivia's analysis. They were uncomfortable with the fact that she had earned respect without needing their approval. When Adrian addressed his team, he made his position clear. The best person in the room is not always the person with the highest title. It is the person willing to protect the truth. Those words reflected the lesson he had learned. Olivia never asked Adrian to defend her. She never demanded a special place. She earned her position through knowledge, honesty, and consistency. Later that evening, Adrian found Olivia reviewing another set of documents. "You know," he said, "most people would have tried to make me look wrong after what happened." Olivia looked up and smiled. That was never the goal. The goal was making sure the decision was right. Adrian understood then that Olivia's greatest strength was not simply her ability to evaluate numbers. It was her ability to separate ego from purpose. The woman who gave him a 0 had done something no amount of money could accomplish. She had shown him that true leadership was not about always having the answer. It was about having the humility to find it. The changes inside Whitmore Tower continued to surprise everyone who had known Adrian Blackwell for years. The Mafia Boss who once made decisions surrounded by certainty was now creating a different kind of reputation. He was still respected for his ability to lead, but people began noticing something new. Adrian was no longer focused only on being the person with the final answer. He was becoming the person who knew when to listen. Olivia Carter saw the change, but she never took credit for it. She understood that real growth could not be forced by another person. It had to come from within. That was one of the reasons Adrian respected her so deeply. She never tried to control his choices. She simply offered honesty and allowed him to decide what to do with it. As the $2 billion project moved forward, Olivia continued working with the team. Her role became even more important because the company needed someone who could look at every decision objectively. She examined reports, reviewed progress, and challenged ideas whenever necessary. But what surprised people most was the way she handled success. Even after gaining the respect of powerful executives, Olivia remained humble. She still arrived prepared. She still listened carefully. She still treated everyone with the same level of respect. Adrian noticed that her confidence came from something different than his own. His confidence had been built through achievements, victories, and influence. Olivia's confidence came from knowing who she was, even when others refused to recognize her. One evening, Adrian invited Olivia to a small private dinner to discuss the future of the company. It was not a business meeting filled with presentations and reports. It was simply a conversation between two people who had learned from each other. "How did you become comfortable challenging people with more power than you?" Adrian asked. Olivia looked thoughtful before answering. "I was not always comfortable. I just learned that staying silent when something is wrong creates a bigger problem later." Adrian listened carefully. He understood that answer because he had spent much of his life surrounded by people who avoided difficult truths. Olivia continued, "A person's position should never decide whether they deserve honesty." Those words stayed with Adrian. He realized that many people had mistaken respect for agreement. They believed respecting someone meant supporting every decision they made. Olivia showed him something different. True respect meant caring enough to offer the truth. Meanwhile, Olivia's own story began becoming known throughout the company. People learned that she had spent years building her career in an industry where she was often underestimated. Her appearance, background, and identity had caused some people to judge her before understanding her abilities. But every challenge had strengthened her commitment to excellence. She never wanted recognition because of sympathy. She wanted opportunities where her work could speak for itself. Adrian understood that now. He realized Olivia was not successful because someone finally opened a door for her. She was successful because she had continued walking forward even when others tried to convince her she did not belong. Later that week, Adrian made another important decision. He invited Olivia to become a permanent strategic advisor for future investments. Many people were surprised because the position carried significant influence. But Adrian knew exactly why he made the choice. He did not choose Olivia because she challenged him once. He chose her because she had proven that honesty, intelligence, and integrity were more valuable than comfort. Olivia accepted the opportunity, not because of the title, but because she believed she could continue making a difference. And as the new partnership began, both of them understood something important. The greatest decisions are not always created by the loudest voices in the room. Sometimes they are created by the person brave enough to say what everyone else is afraid to admit. The world around Adrian Blackwell had begun to notice a change that even his closest associates could not ignore. The Mafia Boss who once relied on certainty now valued perspective. The decision to bring Olivia Carter into his inner circle had surprised many people, but Adrian knew it was not a choice based on emotion. It was a choice based on trust. Olivia had proven that she could stand in a room filled with powerful people and still focus on what truly mattered. She was not interested in influence. She was interested in results. As Olivia continued working with Adrian's team, her presence changed the atmosphere inside the company. Meetings became more thoughtful. Decisions became more carefully examined. People who once rushed to support every idea began asking better questions. Adrian noticed that improvement came not from having more people agree with him, but from having people willing to challenge ideas before mistakes became impossible to fix. One morning, Adrian gathered his leadership team to discuss the next stage of the company's growth. In the past, these meetings followed a familiar pattern. Adrian would present a vision, everyone would listen, and the final decision would come from him. But this time was different. He asked Olivia to share her perspective first. The room became quiet because everyone understood the meaning behind that decision. Adrian Blackwell, a man known for controlling every detail, was choosing to let someone else lead the conversation. Olivia explained the opportunities ahead, but she also discussed the responsibilities that came with expansion. She reminded the team that growth was not only about increasing numbers. It was about building something stable enough to last. Adrian listened carefully. He realized that Olivia saw success differently. She did not view achievement as reaching the highest position. She viewed it as creating something meaningful that could continue beyond one person. After the meeting, one of Adrian's executives asked him why he trusted Olivia so much. Adrian looked through the office windows at the city below before answering. Because she is not trying to protect my pride. She is trying to protect the future. That answer surprised the executive. It revealed how much Adrian had changed. For years, people had protected his confidence because they believed it was necessary. Olivia respected him enough to challenge it. Later that week, Adrian and Olivia visited a new development site connected to the company's future plans. While others focused on the size of the project, Olivia paid attention to the people working there, the surrounding community, and the long-term impact. Adrian watched her carefully. He remembered the day she gave him a 0. At the time, many people saw that moment as a rejection. Now he understood it differently. It was an act of responsibility. Olivia had not tried to reduce his success. She had tried to make sure his success was built on something stronger. As they stood together reviewing the plans, Adrian realized that the greatest partnerships were not created between people who always agreed. They were created between people who respected each other enough to be honest. Olivia had entered his world as someone others underestimated. But now she had become the person Adrian trusted most when the truth mattered. And for the first time in his life, The Mafia Boss understood that the strongest person in the room was not always the one with the most power. Sometimes it was the one with the courage to speak when everyone else stayed silent. The transformation of Adrian Blackwell was no longer something people quietly discussed. It had become something they could see in every decision he made. The Mafia Boss, who once believed strength came from having complete control, had discovered a different kind of power. He had learned that listening did not make him weaker. It made his decisions stronger. Olivia Carter continued to work beside him, but she never forgot the reason she was there. She was not there because Adrian gave her an opportunity. She was there because her knowledge and integrity had earned a place at the table. That difference mattered to both of them. As the company prepared for its next major expansion, Adrian faced a new challenge. This time, it was not about numbers or investments. It was about whether the people around him truly understood the lesson he had learned. During a leadership meeting, several executives presented plans for a new initiative. The ideas were impressive, the projections were ambitious, and everyone seemed confident. In the past, Adrian would have approved the plan after hearing the strongest arguments. But this time he paused. He looked toward Olivia. "What are we missing?" he asked. The room became quiet. It was a simple question, but everyone understood its meaning. Adrian was no longer searching only for support. He was searching for perspective. Olivia reviewed the information carefully before responding. She recognized the potential of the plan, but she also noticed areas that needed more attention. She explained her concerns respectfully and offered solutions instead of criticism. The executives listened because they had learned something important. Olivia was never trying to stop progress. She was trying to make sure progress was built on something reliable. After the meeting, Adrian reflected on how much had changed. The same person who once challenged his $2 billion decision had become the person he trusted to evaluate the most important choices. What surprised him most was not that Olivia was intelligent. He had known that from the beginning. What surprised him was her ability to remain grounded despite gaining recognition from powerful people. She did not become arrogant when others finally respected her. She simply continued being the same person she had always been. One evening, Adrian visited Olivia's office and saw her reviewing another set of documents. "You realize most people would have changed after everything that happened," Adrian said. Olivia looked up. "Changed how?" "They would have started seeking approval from the people who once doubted them." Olivia smiled. "Approval is temporary. Character stays." Adrian thought about those words for a long moment. He had spent much of his life building a reputation that others could see. Olivia had spent her life building something deeper that others could feel. That was why people trusted her. She did not need to remind anyone of her value. Her actions showed it. As the weeks passed, the partnership between Adrian and Olivia became an example throughout the company. People began understanding that the strongest teams were not created by people who always shared the same opinions. They were created by people who respected different perspectives enough to learn from them. Adrian had once believed the greatest advantage came from having the most resources. Now he understood that the greatest advantage came from having the right people willing to tell the truth. Olivia Carter had entered his world as the person who challenged him. But she remained because she helped him become a better leader. And Adrian finally understood that real power was not measured by how many people followed your voice. It was measured by how willing you were to listen when another voice revealed something you needed to hear. Years after the day Olivia Carter placed a zero on Adrian Blackwell's most important decision, people still remembered that moment as the turning point that changed everything. At the time, many believed the evaluation would damage Adrian's reputation. They believed challenging a mafia boss with billions of dollars behind him was a mistake. But what they did not understand was that the greatest changes often begin with a difficult truth. Adrian never forgot the lesson Olivia taught him. A person could have influence, wealth, and experience, but none of those things guaranteed that they could see every answer clearly. The ability to listen became one of the greatest strengths he developed. The company continued to grow, but the culture inside it was different. People were encouraged to share ideas. Employees who once stayed quiet began contributing their perspectives. Leaders learned that asking questions did not show uncertainty. It showed responsibility. And everyone knew where that change began. It began with one woman who was brave enough to evaluate a powerful man the same way she would evaluate anyone else. Olivia continued building her own reputation, but she remained focused on the same principles that guided her from the beginning. She did not measure success by attention or status. She measured it by the impact her work created. Adrian admired that quality because it reminded him of something he had forgotten. The most valuable people were not always the ones trying to be noticed. They were often the ones quietly creating results while others looked elsewhere. One evening, Adrian and Olivia stood together overlooking the city from the same tower where their story had started. The view below was filled with thousands of lights, each representing people with different goals, challenges, and dreams. Adrian looked back on the moment when Olivia gave him a 0. "Do you ever think about that day?" he asked. Olivia smiled. "Sometimes." "Do you think you changed my decision?" Adrian asked. Olivia looked at him. "No. You changed your own decision. I only gave you information you needed." Adrian nodded because he understood the meaning behind her words. Olivia had never tried to control his choices. She had never tried to prove she was better than him. She had simply respected him enough to tell the truth. That was what made her different. Over time, the people around Adrian learned the same lesson. Respect was not created by fear. It was created through trust. A person's value was not determined by their position, their background, or the amount of attention they received. It was revealed through their actions when nobody expected anything from them. Adrian had once believed the strongest person in the room was the one who had the most power. Olivia showed him another perspective. The strongest person was often the one who could remain honest even when honesty was difficult. The $2 billion decision became more than a business moment. It became a reminder that success required more than ambition. It required wisdom, humility, and the courage to accept a different point of view. The woman who once stood across from him as an evaluator became the person who helped him become a better leader. And Adrian Blackwell finally understood that the greatest investment he ever made was not measured in dollars. It was the decision to value the truth when it appeared in front of him.